Hi everyone, this is Deborah. Today we have a question on a video clip from Paul Garthwaite. He is a member of our Freedom Teachings group, and the question is morphogenic fields. Stay tuned.
Hi, Randy and Deborah. Great to see you. Thank you so much for your time. I've got a question for you. Could you explain about morphogenic fields? I think it's an incredible subject, and I can never know enough. So thank you so much for all your input, and I'd love to see that. Thanks for the videos. Love to you all.
So, what is the morphogenic field? Well, the simplest answer is it's primal substance. So what is primal substance? It's the partici. And if you know what that is, we're done here. We can move on. We can all go home. So let's focus on the partici, because everything is composed of partici. It's what it really is. And when we look at these more complicated structures within creation, it's not separate. It's part of the internal program unfolding. It's sort of like, I used the analogy of Legos before, which creates a visual, so that's helpful, right? Think of Legos and having a program within the Lego to be able to build the structure. The Legos knows how many Legos it requires in order to build that structure, and it can do it itself, right? So you have this connecting points, and those connecting points would be referred to as being Keylon codes. And you have Keylons, which is partici. It's all partici, but it's just developing structure based on the program. So they're interlocking with one another in order to create the structure, the form that is within the program. It's a pretty complicated program, okay? Because there's a lot of different form and structure that's taking place. But it's the building blocks for all of it, and the instructions is within the partici. So it's all partici. It's all made up of partici. So knowing what the partici is, or the basic function of what it is, what it does, is really going to give you the answer for all your questions in regard to structure, because you're going to see everything within it. As an example, when you look at Merkaba fields, all you have to do is look at the partici, and you can see the Merkaba field in the partici within the omnipolarity of that structure. So let's further define the partici. They, that is the partici, are electrotonal unit of energy identity that emanate from the central source called the unici. This is the name that guardian nations give for God. They, that is the partici, operate as minute fission-fusion generators. They maintain the electromagnetic frequency fields upon which the universe and all structure are built. They exist within and beyond our matter forms, prematter, antimatter, and consciousness. That goes to show you that consciousness is part of the structure. I've been saying this before I ever learned any of this. I knew that. And there's evidence for it right there. They form and sustain something called morphogenic form-holding fields, or electromagnetic fields, for all forms and all forms and subparticles. Too many syllables, folks. Everything has a morphogenic field because everything is composed of these basic units called partici. A morphogenic field is a basic energy field, energy structure behind a manifest form, which allows that manifest form to keep its shape. Everything in the universe has one. They are groups of partici units that form those morphogenic fields. Even the partici represents a morphogenic field by itself. All the information that is within the program, the instructions, is found within the partici. So from that perspective alone, it can become quite complicated because we start looking at different terms that have the same meaning, but yet it extends the meaning in a way to help define it that much more because of its function, such as the idea of scalar waves. Looking at what the morphogenic field is. The Hoover bodies is another name for the morphogenic fields. The crystal body is another name for the morphogenic fields, right? The manifestation template is another name for the morphogenic fields. The bioenergetic system, the auric field, the list goes on in respect to how things relate. So when you look at, as an example, the Hoover bodies, you see it as a triadic harmonic light sound grid. Well, what is that? Okay. Sound, light, grid. All right, so triune, right? Triadic harmonic light sound grid. So the light is in reference to scalar wave. You look at the sound, that's tonal frequency. You look at the grid, that's the morphogenic partici grid. So you can get into those things and start defining those, explaining its function. What is a scalar wave? What is a standing wave? So the point is that you can really spend a whole lot of time with this. But for simplicity's sake, again, it's about understanding the partici, knowing what it is, how it functions, what happens when it replicates, the process of fission fusion. What is it doing? Primarily what you're looking at is, okay, what is it replicating for? And that's what I'm trying to emphasize here. It is about consciousness. It's about the program within the structure, this electrotonal unit structure called the partici. The instructions within it allows for everything to unfold, and the building block is the partici. So everything is partici, regardless of the type of structure it may become based on the instructions within the partici, such as the example in respect to forms. You have a planet, well, that's a particular morphogenic field, right? What is a morphogenic field? It's a form-holding template. Here's the morphogenic field for Earth, right? Then you have the morphogenic field for your body, and then for a cat's body. So it's very specific in respect to the frequency pattern, because it's a very specific frequency pattern that allows for that form shape. It's easy to want to go outside of this. The tendency for the person is to see it as being something separate, and it's not. That's the point. Everything can be understood within the context of the partici. It's the reason why I always come back around to this, because, it's what it is. You cannot separate it from this, because it is the reason, this is the reason for everything. Be it that the partici is among the 6 primary elements in the science of Kilonta, it is the primary element. But in the context of building block structure, it's important to list them, and we have that which is seen as being 6 expressions of that. So we have partici, we have partici strands, we have partici grids, we have chelons, we have chelon codes, we have then morphogenic fields, then light symbol codes, which is the geometric, more complicated aspects of the math. But it all comes from the partici. The partici is the program. It is the structure from which everything is built from. It is the building blocks. It is the Legos, if you will. So, yeah, partici operates as a minute self-regenerating fission-fusion generators. Through the dynamics of their interaction, they create and maintain electromagnetic fields. Sound familiar? Of sound frequency and light spectra of which the cosmos is composed. That's the reason why you hear the expression, I've used it many, many times, this is a construct of sound and light. It is the smallest unit of energy in the cosmos. Now, one could find 800 billion partici units in an average three-dimensional photon. They exist within and beyond all particle and matter structures and represent the divine substance out of which the cosmos is composed. Let's back up for a second and take a look at the photon. I use the analogy of Legos, okay? Now, for the average three-dimensional photon, we have 800 billion partici units within it. It's not just a matter of having 800 billion partici units is found within the photon. It requires that much in order for that photon to hold form, because the information is found within what? The partici. So we're referring to building blocks, hence that's the reason why I use the analogy of the Legos. It takes, another way to say this is it takes 800 billion Legos to make a photon. You get the point, right? So it's within the instruction. That's the reason why we look at kilons, which is the further dimensionalization upon the unified field. The unified field is partici grids. I've done other videos where I've done graphics for this so that you can get a visual for it. And then you have kilon codes. These are connecting, like Legos, so to speak, and with it comes more information, more instruction for the build of the form, right? So when we look at a photon, an average three-dimensional photon, 800 billion partici is required in order for that form and function of that form to exist. You follow? Okay, so partici are the primary units of energy that form all matter, antimatter, prematter, and non-matter substance. Partici units are omnipolar, polar, containing the potentials for all polarities or none, positive, negative, neutral. This is something I've been aware of for quite a long time. I like the neutrality because there is no outcome for neutrality. In other words, there is no cause and effect. And I realized that many, many years ago. And I experienced that where I was dealing with certain entities. I don't know if that's the correct term, but other beings within this world, the average person wouldn't see because they would be out of phase of this reality field. And I know that when I held a position of neutrality, things ceased. There was nothing. It was interesting. It was like the eye of the storm type of thing, for an analogy's sake. it was all of a sudden there was this nothing. And it was an interesting space to be in. And I just kind of fell in love with that space. It's like, I like this place. And I had experienced that space once before, earlier on, with an experience I had when I was 17. And that's a story unto itself. I also experienced an electromagnetic or electrotonal field when I was abducted in 1972. My experience has me reflect on the construct. When I experienced that field around my house, and I could see it, I could hear it, I could feel it, and it was pulsing. And it was like it was alive. The thing about experiences, and the reason usually why I don't talk about experiences that much, is because they're experiences. And some of these experiences you really cannot communicate. You can describe it, but nobody's really going to get it. So what's the point, you know? So I refrain from that for those reasons, because it's really not beneficial. But I find it interesting, and I bring it into this context now is because it reminded me of what I'm learning and what I'm coming to know, or remember what I used to know about the structure of the universe. So it helps me relate to it better. Okay, so let's get back to the partici. So through interior polarization and replication created through self-generated fission-fusion, partici manufacture two intrinsic subunit of crystalline morphogenic substance that serves as blueprints for rhythms of pulsation through which particles, particum, and antiparticles, particae, manifest. Each partici perpetually breaks down into particum and particae, particle and antiparticle, while simultaneously replicating the original partici through the act of internal fission. The replication serves to retain the pattern of the original, while the particum and the particae serve to draw other partici units from the unified field. This is how they accrete or pull together or accumulate. The particum and particae are magnetically drawn back together in an act of fusion through which they merge with the replica of the original partici out of which they were created. Okay, so for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead because this video has gone on way longer than it should have. Considering that these are supposed to be under 15 minutes, this is the exception. So let's go ahead and take a look at the idea of manifestation in general. Now, manifestation actually is not really occurring. No thing is truly manifest. I'll repeat that. No thing is truly manifest. It only appears to be so. There's an energetic relationship going on here that's inherent to the holographic template. Yes, this is a holographic construct. God's source consciousness field. It's holographic. It's a program. Think of it as a virtual reality. You're projecting your mind into another world. And in this case, when we look at a harmonic universe as an example, you have three dimensions that makes up that reality field. Consciousness enters into that reality field. It enters into a vessel or a body. And that body acts as a projector. And consciousness is the reel of film, if you will, that's played out through the projector. So, in other terms, you become the hologram. So therefore, your experience is 100% real. That's the reason why you feel solid and why everything is extremely sensitive and tangible. It is a very complex program. Very, very complex. And it is within the mind of a being that we call Source. But you are transcendent of this. That's the reason why we are saying here that no thing is truly manifest. It only appears to be so due to the refraction of consciousness within the energetic relationship that's inherent to the holographic template. That is what? It is the original thought form construct upon which our universal structure is perpetually created. No creature or thing can be divorced from its innate spirituality, but only from the awareness of its nature. The whole point of experiencing self differently, and that's what you're doing. It's a vicarious experience of self, is to truly, ultimately, is to perpetuate creation as we know it. And it's meant to be done and experienced through joy, because joy and love causes expansion. As we know, things have been altered here that challenges that to its uttermost. So we look at death. What is death? It's molecular compaction. It is the result of finite energy. It is not part of the natural order. It is known as the fall. And it is but a shadow of actually what things really are. So, again, no creature or thing can be divorced from its innate spirituality, but only from the awareness of its nature. For life is the expression and substance of spirit. The manifest reality is but a dreamscape from which we eventually all awaken. So let's take a look at scalar grids, scalar waves. So magnetic fields can be understood as scalar grids or scalar fields made up of interwoven patterns of consciousness that take the form of standing waves. Again, we're referring to patterns of frequency. Okay? Very specific patterns of frequency. A scalar wave is a multidimensional standing wave pattern that emanates out of a fixed point. A sound tonal vibration within the morphogenic field of the cosmic unified field of energy. What is that? That is partici grids. Let's take a look at Christmas display lights. Okay? Scalar waves appear to move from one place to another, but in truth, they are stationary points of light that are strung together in sequences within the fabric of the cosmic morphogenic field. So the appearance of a scalar wave movement is generated as sequences of scalar wave points and are activated or lighted in synchronization with each other. So the effect, what we're seeing here in respect to the Christmas display lights, is an accurate depiction of what is occurring within the hologram. All right, folks, there's more that can be said about this, and I'm not going to do any more. This has gone on way too long. Hopefully you gained something from this. So I'm going to switch over here to being in front of the camera. So what is the morphogenic field? It is the fifth stage development of the particai's internal program for form manifestation. This is known as the manifestation template. It is the eternal life crystal code first creation program. A scalar wave grid, in other words, a sequence of stationary points of light that appear to move but don't. The blueprint through which consciousness manifests, made of primal substance, which is partici. I would like to thank Paul Garthwaite for his question. Thank you, Paul. I hope it was satisfactory. Thanks to Deborah Harold for her co-host assistance. And thank you to the viewers. I hope this was beneficial in some way. I would like to leave you with this. The truth is found within the balance of that which is true. Blessings.